Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We will be just letting people join the call and we'll start shortly. Good morning, everyone. We will be starting now in a couple of seconds. You can see a lot of people are joined already, but there's still a few joining. So bear with us for another 20, 30 seconds or so, and then we will kick off. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started at this point. First things first, I wanted to take a minute and introduce myself. I'm Lauren Cohen. I am a solutions consultant specifically focused on LinkedIn sales insights, and I'm based out of London. And today I've got Jamie Barbour with me. And Jamie, I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Lauren. So my role is very similar to Lauren as a solutions consultant, focusing on LSI. And really looking forward to walking everyone through the CRM integrations with LSI today. So Lauren, I'll hand back to you.
Awesome. So here at LinkedIn, we are in the unique position of being able to observe how the buying process has changed for decision makers. We can see this because LinkedIn is the network where sellers are interacting with buyers, where companies represent their brand, and where they go to invest in talent to grow their business. So with this in mind, LinkedIn is really the only truly global network that can kind of keep up with the fast changing marketplace. What you guys can see on the screen here is that we've got just about 800 million members today across 200 countries and regions worldwide. What's not on this slide is that we also have about the information for about 60 million companies on the platform. One of the really unique things about LinkedIn is that you've got those 800 million members and those 60 million companies updating their own information in real time. Now, as that information changes, it doesn't just stay on the platform, it gets fed into other systems across our network, systems exactly like LSI. So not only are you kind of dealing with first party data, and when I say first party, I mean information that's actually being kind of validated by the people and companies themselves, but also extremely dynamic data. So all of this data is refreshed every 24 hours within our own systems. Now, because we are so kind of proud of the quality of our data, one of the things that I did want to highlight here is just how important it is to have a strong data foundation as you begin to structure your sales and marketing strategies. Really kind of the cost of doing business today can be deeply impacted by the quality of the data that you have. So what I wanted to focus on, we've got the data and insights from the LinkedIn network that really powers our sales solutions. And we believe that that's the key to supercharging your organization's entire go-to-market strategy. Our sales solutions give sales operations the data that they need to be informed and to create really dynamic sales plans. It gives us the information to empower sales with kind of the prospecting and relationship building tools that they need to become trusted advisors to buyers and to forge kind of extremely strong relationships with the contacts or people that matter most within those companies. And not surprisingly, what we believe is that having those tools also really empowers us to create a single and reliable foundation of data for an entire sales organization to run off of. And that's really where we see the CRM coming into play. So on the slide here, you can kind of see the different connections between LinkedIn Sales Insights, which is our planning tool, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which I believe is our execution tool, and then how they both feed into CRM to ensure that not only is that information active, but that it's visible across your entire sales org. Now, Jamie's really going to be the one to go into much more detail here, but what I wanted to do was just take a second to kind of highlight the different things that are getting taken out of LSI and imported or written back into your CRM. So all of the information on this slide that's kind of surrounded by a yellow box here is a field that's coming from LSI and is being, again, written back into your CRM. So the focus here is that we've got company name, website, the headquarter location. We've got extremely granular employee headcount information and growth trends here. You've got the LinkedIn company ID and industry information. And then at the very bottom, what you can see is that we've got persona information as well. So within the tool, we do have the ability to isolate people with specific seniority, functions, or job titles. And again, that information can be shared back into the CRM. So you can really start to get a very clear sense of not only what's going on within the account, but what's going on within the departments or teams that matter most to you. Now, on the very bottom of the screen, we also have a quick screenshot of what it looks like if instead of taking information from LSI to CRM, you chose to actually export it to CSV. Last but not least, before we get to the demo itself, I did just really briefly want to touch on the integration process between LSI and a CRM. In this particular instance, I've opted to look at Salesforce, but the entire process takes about 6 steps. So what you can see here, again, are screenshots from the system itself. But the first thing that we're asking you to do is actually set up a new instance. Once you've opted to do that, you've got the choice to either set up a production environment or to send things to Sandbox first, if you're interested in testing before you go straight into, again, kind of a more live environment. Once you've made that choice, you can then log into your CRM. And as soon as that CRM connection is established, you'll see the screen refresh. It does then instruct you to install a CRM app. And what that really does is it enables our systems to write back the data that exists within LSI into your CRM. And then last but not least, then you just have to click finish. And actually at that point, the integration is completed. So without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing and I'll let Jamie actually take us through these processes live.
Thanks, Lauren. And you might let me know, Lauren, if you can see my screen, and then we can continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see your screen. Looks
super
great.
stuff. And one thing I'd say, everyone, as we go through this, do feel free to pop into the chat. If you have any questions, you can also actually use the Q&A, and we'd love to answer those questions as we go as well. So Lauren will be monitoring the chat as I do my demonstration. So on screen here, you will see Sales Insights. Here we have a report. And the reason I wanted to start here is that if you've been following along in our series, or if you've seen a little bit of LSI before, you're probably a little bit familiar and you haven't just come in to see the CRM integration. If not, don't worry about that. We can kind of catch you up really quickly. But essentially here on screen, I see a number of companies that I might be interested in, given the filters that I have on the left-hand side here. But it's up top left here that I want to bring your attention to, the sources. So if I go in and change sources here, you'll notice that I can include and exclude sources. And you see here that I have Salesforce as an option. Now, Salesforce is one option. Dynamics is another option to integrate directly with LSI. If I do not have those CRMs, that's okay too. We'll talk about that later on. But essentially, with those two CRMs, Salesforce and Dynamics, I can integrate directly and I can focus on that source. So I could look at all of the known companies that I have in my CRM, and I can bring them up here on the report and then get all of that rich first-party self-described information that these companies are giving to LinkedIn, sharing with LinkedIn, and keeping up to date on a day-by-day basis. Now, how I actually would do that, let me go into my next tab here, so sources. And this actually brings me on to the piece that if you have a CRM that's not Salesforce or Dynamics, how would we work with that? So you'll see here under my sources tab, I have purchased accounts, which is accounts that I'm tracking or following or I want to download, but I have my CRM here. So I can sync my CRM, Salesforce or Dynamics, and it will match my accounts. And then I can actually create reports directly from there. If I do not, what I can do is I can upload a list here, and down through this list, I can just import a report from my CRM, and then I can actually run a report on that. So if it was HubSpot, SAP, etc., I could actually do that. Now in this tab, what I have is, you'll see here, this is a CRM report, and my source is actually selected as Salesforce. Now this is just what I've chosen for the demo. I have a dev environment of Salesforce, so I only have a couple of accounts in it. But essentially what you would do here is you would focus on your source, which is your CRM, and then we have a couple of extra filters. So we can look at things like match confidence. So how confident is LinkedIn that this company here, Johnson Controls, maps to a company that's in my CRM, which typically would be Johnson Controls. And those match confidences range from 1 to 5. And you can see the match confidence percentage beside it here. So I can sort by those, or I can look at an account owner. So look at a specific person that might own opportunities or accounts within my CRM, and I can focus in on that person. So Jamie Barbour here, I could focus on the accounts that he owns. Or what I could do is I could look at opportunity stage. So it might be that I want to filter the accounts that appear on the report by customer or prospect, or any opportunity stage that you have written in your CRM. Because what we're doing is we're reading the different stages, we're reading the account owners, and you can use those as filters. Well, what happens next then is, as I run my report and I get all of the information, opportunity size, employees, jobs posted, sales connectivity, persona information, if I was to add personas, I can actually push that directly to my CRM. And there's actually 2 ways to do that. So if I have a direct integration with Salesforce or Dynamics, I can just go up here and click export and push to CRM. And then it will tell me how many records I need to consume. I've already pushed these across, so I don't have to use any credits. And I can push them manually if I want. Maybe once a quarter, once a year, once a week, totally flexible. Or I can opt to say, hey, LSI, can you push any changes to any of this information every single day? So every 24 hours, we'll update total employee numbers, growth rates, persona sizings, etc., etc. Push that directly into your CRM. Now, if it's a case that you do not have the Salesforce or Dynamics integration because you use a different CRM, that's fine too. We can just go up here. We can focus on the companies that matter to us, and we can click export to CSV. And what we will get is a CSV that looks like this. And you can see here a list of companies and all of the information that we'll export from LSI. And you can simply import this into your CRM. So you might do this on a kind of a weekly or a monthly or quarterly basis, but again, it's flexible, so it's totally up to you. And if you export these on day 1, then in 2 weeks' time, 7 weeks' time, 5 days' time, you can do a new export and anything that has changed. So all of this dynamic information over here around employee numbers, persona quantifications, growth rates, we'll update that, and you can update that in your CRM. Things over here on the left, like name of company, where they're headquartered, probably is going to be a little bit less dynamic. Those things don't change too often, but the employees numbers, the persona numbers, they would change pretty frequently. So you will have the ability to upload all of this LinkedIn information into your CRM. And a way that might look is, if we are using Salesforce, actually, maybe we want to push in new accounts that we don't have in our CRM. So we just use the data import wizard, and we can import those companies, create those companies. If we're using maybe a HubSpot, an SAP, a Sugar CRM, those accounts might exist, or we might want to create new accounts, and we'll use their equivalent of a data import wizard to update and enrich those accounts. Now, from the perspective of when I have this report, though, you'll notice that I do have a match confidence rate here. So if I go back to the start, how do I do those matches? How do I get those matches? How can I influence those matches to make sure that we have really accurate matching and we're very confident, so that when we push this data, we know we're pushing it to the right place? And the answer is simply, I have multiple ways to do that. So if I show you in here my CRM integration settings, you'll notice that I'm connected to a particular org ID. I can change this, disconnect it. It tells me that my package is installed, which Lauren mentioned. We'll talk about that later. And you'll see here that there's actually a match report. So I can go into my match report And where I will land then, I will see a summarized view of, here are all of the companies that are accounts in my CRM and which LinkedIn entities they are matched to. So I can see it visually really quickly here. I can edit these matches, I can confirm them. So you can see I have 2 confirmed here, or I can go in and click edit and just do a free search on a particular company name, or decide, yep, they are absolutely the same company. I'm going to click confirm. And you see there's match confidence rates here. So I can actually filter by those if I'd like to as well. So within LSI, the person that's managing LSI can make sure that the matches are accurate, they're correct, and we can change those over time as well. Now, when I actually push this information to CRM, what does it look like? Typically, what would it look like? Well, again, we'll use Salesforce as the example. If I land here on this company, so this is University of Arizona, I have all this information up here in the kind of top area, those standard fields that we would be familiar with in CRM. But the challenge here is that sometimes these aren't accurate, or we hear from our clients that they find it difficult to keep this information up to date at scale, en masse, because they have thousands and thousands of companies. Just below it, you'll be familiar with Sales Navigator, where we can look at people, we can look at news, connectivity, and we can interact with Sales Navigator. But broadly, none of this information is really being written back, unless it's writing back an in-mail or a message that we sent. But over here on the right-hand side, I have this second component that we mentioned, LinkedIn Sales Insights. And here, all of these pieces of information are information from that company, from their company page, or it might be persona information. I haven't pushed any here, but as you've seen with Lauren's slides, we can push specific persona information. All of this information is that first-party data that University of Arizona are providing to the company page. And we're pulling that in directly to your CRM in this little box here. And you can see there's things like global employee count, which will be dynamic, might change every day, employee growth, et cetera, et cetera. And the persona information will be dynamic as well. But we can be very confident of this information because it's provided directly from those companies. And we know that the numerical values are really accurate because LinkedIn check this every single day. As people leave the company, move into the company, as they change roles, get promoted, we update all these statistics in real time. All of these fields, because they're baked into Salesforce now, so we've put them on their own table. For anyone technical, this is a custom component. And what will happen is I can actually look or use at any of these fields to maybe overwrite things. So I can see here, the information I have in University of Arizona is this website. The industry here is biotechnology. Now, this doesn't look accurate to me. So I can see with LinkedIn Sales Insights that they are self-describing themselves in higher education. And this is the company website that they state is their company website. So we can map these over, we can overwrite them. You essentially have the flexibility. The starting point is that they exist here, and you can decide what you want to do with them. And the other thing about what we can do with them is we can start to actually report on them. So if I go in here to a report, here is a report of all the information that's coming from Sales Insights. So I can see all these companies. I can see some have persona names. I can see all of the self-described information, and I can see all the numerical values over here. So employee counts within that persona, employee growth in that persona. And what I can do with any of these fields is I can report on them in any report I might have. So if I have an opportunity pipeline report, what you can do is you can bring up your opportunities and maybe look at how many employees, 43 here, are in the sales and biz dev persona at Burlington stores. And that might be useful information to have within an opportunity report. So we can look at things like sizing, or we can use it for account propensity modeling. So if you want to say, hey, we only want to put our tier 1 prospects if they have a persona of X size, maybe 20 people, because that's a kind of a good sizing or our sweet spot in how we target. Or it might very well be that your marketing team, if it's not a sales use case, your marketing team want to maybe trigger a campaign based on as a company gets to a specific size, or as a function within that company grows, they want to bring them into some nurturing. You can absolutely do that, given the fact that you've all that information in your single source of truth, which is typically a CRM for many companies. So being able to bring all of this information into Salesforce, where it can be used in different tools that are connected to Salesforce or Dynamics or any CRM, because as I mentioned, we can import all of this information in from the CSV. Now, last thing is you'll see here that within Sales Navigator, we can see these companies are in the CRM. We know we'll have more people using Sales Navigator, those field sales people, than we'll be using maybe LinkedIn Sales Insights. So it's important that they can actually edit these matches and make sure that we're matching this company on LinkedIn to the correct company within CRM. So it's not all on this LSI user to go in and manage all the matches. We can benefit from the fact that the users of Sales Navigator, they're working with the same match file. So a connected Sales Navigator and a connected LSI will match against those same companies. So we can be really clear and transparent on which companies are which, and everyone can kind of collaborate and focus on the right companies as well. So that brings us to the end of the demonstration. What we'll do now is we'll just pass back to, I'm going to stop my share, and we can answer any questions that have come up on the call, Lauren, if there's anything.
Yeah, absolutely, Jamie. It doesn't look like we've got anything in the Q&A or in the chat. As you mentioned, and this is really for everyone else out there, this is a great time to chime in if there's anything that you want to learn more about or want to see in more depth.
I think for me, Lauren, the important thing is anyone that's familiar with Sales Navigator, we know we're a little bit restricted in the types of CRMs that we can connect to. But the beauty of LSI is that you can export that data to a CSV and import it into any CRM or any tool. So we've a lot more flexibility with LSI in the sense of taking that rich data from LinkedIn and being able to put it into the systems that matter to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Still doesn't look like we've got anything popping up in the chat or in the Q&A. So I guess we'll hang out for another minute or two and we'll be here. But if people feel like they've gotten everything that they need, we'll wrap it up there.
I suppose while we wait for that, Lauren, one key call out, if you'd like to know more, if you'd like to see this within your context and your business, feel free to reach out to your relationship manager or to your account executive, and they will be able to set up time with either myself or Lauren and themselves to walk you through in a little bit more of a deep dive as well. Happy to go deeper with your specific use case. Okay, hopefully we've given people back about 10 minutes, Lauren, and we can drop off. But just wishing you all happy holidays or happy Christmas, wherever you might be. And we will have more of these webinars in the new year. So feel free to keep up to date with what your account managers are pushing out with invites, etc. So thank you everyone for your time, and we will see you all again soon. Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.